They say every fight in the UFC can end in a flash of brilliance, or a flash of chaos, but not many people expected that chaos to revolve around one of the most decorated fighters in bantamweight history claiming he couldn't see. Henry Cejudo stepped back into the Octagon to take on Song Yadong, and what erupted next left fans worldwide torn between conspiracies and genuine concern. Was it all a ploy to force a disqualification, or did we witness a fight-ending injury that could change the division forever? You be the judge, because the controversy is just getting started. From the opening horn, it felt like a tactical chess match in the making. Cejudo, a former 2-division champion, facing off against the ever-improving Song Yadong. Analysts predicted wrestling finesse against striking explosiveness, but nobody foresaw the bizarre mid-fight twist. Somewhere in the middle of the action, Song's outstretched fingers grazed, or possibly jabbed, Cejudo's eye. Instantly, the referee called a timeout so Henry could recover. 5 minutes is the standard allotment to recover from a foul, but as the seconds ticked away, tension built. Cejudo paced, rubbed his eye, and consulted his corner. He even tried blinking out the pain, but kept saying he was seeing double. Fans at home watched in disbelief, uncertain if Henry was angling for a possible DQ or simply suffering a legitimate impairment. As the fight resumed, it was obvious that Henry wasn't at full capacity, or at least he claimed he wasn't. Moments later, a ringside physician intervened and declared that continuing would pose too great a risk. With 3 rounds already completed, the judges had enough to render a decision, ultimately awarding the win to Song Yadong. What made it so strange was the aftermath. Cejudo arguing that he still had more left, and Song himself calling for another showdown. Nobody seemed satisfied and everything felt incomplete. Once the smoke cleared, the cameras zeroed in on UFC President Dana White, whose post-fight press conferences are known for blunt remarks. When asked if the fans could expect a rematch, Dana shut down the possibility faster than a lightning jab. Not at all, he said, dismissing the idea as if it were never on the table. To the casual observer, that sounded harsh, especially given the circumstances of the no-closure ending, but Dana didn't stop there. He suggested that Henry might have been dramatizing the foul to manipulate the outcome. Maybe he thought if he stopped, it'd become a DQ or no contest, he mused. Or maybe he truly couldn't see. The subtext was loud and clear. Dana doesn't entirely buy Cejudo's story. Fans, hungry for any sign of a guaranteed part 2, were left stunned by the UFC boss's refusal to entertain a replay. For an organization that usually loves a good rivalry and profitable grudge match, this stance was uncharacteristically rigid. Not one to stay silent, Henry Cejudo took to Instagram to deliver his own account of events. In a video that circulated across social platforms, the Olympic gold medalist recounted the instant his eye got poked. He claimed he's been poked before and usually shakes it off, but this time he felt 2 fingers in the eye that caused an immediate, lingering disturbance in his vision. He detailed a medical condition, diplopia, explaining how he saw everything double even after waiting the full 5-minute interval. According to Henry, once the break ended, he still couldn't focus on a single opponent. Song appeared to have 4 arms and multiple silhouettes. That's when the fight was stopped for good. In his caption, Cejudo insisted it wasn't a fair result, writing, "Song, you are a warrior, but you did not win this fight, and I did not lose." He continued by urging Dana White to run it back ASAP. To his credit, he voiced respect for Song Yadong's skill, but stood firm in his conviction that the score was far from settled. Song Yadong has been carving out a name for himself as a lethal striker who evolves rapidly with each bout. After the official decision was read, he did something unusual for a winner. He asked for a rematch. You rarely see a victor so eager to prove that the outcome was legitimate, or to silence doubters who believe he escaped a more competitive fight than the scorecards indicated. Why would the winner call for a second fight? Part of it could be the pride of a fighter who wants no asterisk next to his biggest wins. Another angle is that, with so much confusion swirling around the eye poke, maybe Song just wants a definitive finish. He knows that if he's going to climb to title contention, he can't have a high-profile victory overshadowed by rumors of unfairness or fluke stoppages. Nonetheless, Dana White's immediate no to the rematch request stunned everyone. Why might the UFC president be so adamant against the idea, especially when controversies like these typically generate bigger hype the second time around. Some fans suggest that perhaps the UFC sees better matchups or more lucrative possibilities on the horizon for both Song and Henry. Others think Dana's simply fed up with what he perceives as drama or stalling tactics in an already stacked division. As soon as Henry's Instagram video dropped, the internet got busy. Debates on social media forums spiked, with half the crowd backing Cejudo's claims and the other half ridiculing him for allegedly exaggerating. Accusations surfaced that Henry wanted a free pass out of a losing fight, especially given the close but leaning scorecards in favor of Song Yadong. Memes circulated, some joking that Henry saw 4 arms because he was seeing quadruple, while others posted medical diagrams to prove that diplopia can indeed strike without warning. In the midst of the chatter, many fighters and analysts chimed in. Some, like Michael Venom Page, reminded fans that injuries can be tricky. If a fighter says they can't see, you've got to take it seriously, they argued. Others took Dana White's side, insisting that the UFC cannot reward potential foul play exploitation. The question remains, how can the UFC standardize replay rules or point deductions to avoid repeating such fiascos? What stands out is how passionately fans debated whether a point should have been deducted from Song Yadong. Some felt that every unintentional poke still deserves a penalty, citing the pre-fight warnings. Others pointed to slow-motion replays that seemed to show Song's gloves angled correctly, with a stray finger slipping out by accident. Until the UFC finalizes a more comprehensive replay policy, these controversies are bound to keep happening. Bantamweight is arguably one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC right now, boasting names like Merab Dvalishvili, Sean O'Malley, Petr Yan, and more. An unresolved fight at the top level muddies the waters, especially if fans are split on who truly deserves the next big matchup. If Henry's eye injury fiasco ends up forcing him to the sideline, we could see rising contenders like Song leapfrog him for a more direct route to title contention. Meanwhile, Dana's resistance to an immediate rematch could accelerate the timelines for other fighters eager to stake their claim. O'Malley, for instance, has soared in popularity and might be eyeing a champion versus champion scenario or more headline-worthy showdowns. Merab, with his grinding style, is also a top threat. While Henry lobbies for a second fight to clear his name, the division moves onward, and that might leave a former champ behind if the UFC decides to book Song against another high-profile contender. The biggest question is whether Henry can recover quickly, or if his eye condition will require extended downtime. Diplopia can be short-lived or linger for months, depending on the severity. If Cejudo can't train at full intensity soon, that puts him at a disadvantage in a division where new faces emerge constantly. While the bantamweight saga unfolds, the UFC's middleweight scene is abuzz with speculation about Khamzat Chimaev's quest for gold. Some say he's unstoppable, but critics note that if he can't manage his energy, especially in later rounds, someone like Dricus du Plessis could hand him his first real loss. At lightweight, we have the ongoing intrigue around Dustin Poirier's final fights, with names like Paddy Pimblett calling him out, or in some cases burying the hatchet. And at light heavyweight, Jamal Hill has been reevaluating his stand-up defense after suffering a tough loss to Yuri Prochazka. All these parallel storylines feed into a swirling ecosystem of competition, where tomorrow's rumor can turn into next week's main event. Fans love the what-if scenarios, like Henry moving up or down, or Song taking another high-stakes fight, because unpredictability is the bread and butter of MMA. Controversy sells, and right now, the bantamweight controversy is hotter than ever. So here we stand at an unusual crossroads. One of the UFC's most decorated bantamweights believes he was robbed by a freak accident and an impatient stoppage, while a rising star who won on paper still feels like he needs to prove something. Dana White, the man who typically relishes a big money rematch, has already slammed the door shut. Could that door reopen if fan pressure mounts? Or is this the final word on a frustratingly inconclusive showdown? As the MMA world keeps spinning, Henry Cejudo's eye poke controversy might foreshadow deeper questions about fighter safety, replay usage, and whether the UFC's stance on immediate rematches is changing. Only time will tell if we'll ever see Cejudo versus Yadong 2, or if Henry's injury will sideline him long enough to shift the entire bantamweight landscape. In a sport where a single fight can alter legacies, you don't want to blink. If only Henry could have avoided blinking himself. Where do you fall on this debate? Should the UFC give fans a second fight to settle the score? Or is it best to move on? Let us know your take, because this story has many pages left to be written, and every MMA fan has a pen in hand.